We got Grace Bowers here. Hello, Grace Bowers. How are
Hello.
you?
I'm good.
I'm doing some very important research that I should have already done, and I can now confirm that Titan of Twang, it's a celebration of Dwayne Eddy, is going to happen Sunday at the Opry House. There we go. So this is why it's always nice to have people in here who know more than me, because I said Ryman, it's not the Ryman, it's the Opry House. Simple mistake though. I think I can get off the hook for that
Close
one.
enough,
I
yeah.
hope. So I was taking a look. You were here. We did this. It was last June. I believe you were in here. We hung out and we were chatting a little bit. And the album hadn't even come out yet.
Yeah.
And you were still everywhere and doing everything. and was it Wine on Venus was still just kind of waiting to be unleashed on everybody. Lots changed since then, hasn't it?
A lot, yeah.
Yeah. How are you doing? First off, how are you holding up with everything going on around you? You doing okay?
I'm doing great.
Yeah,
I'm tired, but in a good way.
In a good way.
Yeah.
It's the tired that you've been working for.
Yeah, for
right?
sure.
Well, I mean, you don't seem jittery or anything. You seem like you're doing okay. So that's good. So let's talk about this Wine on Venus. When it came out, it was so funny because we had been playing your music for a minute. We'd had the single before the record came out. It was one of those things where we got so used to you so quickly. We're like, wait a minute, this is the first record. And it's just, this doesn't make any kind of sense at all. But tell us a little bit. I mean, where did you do the record? I mean, you got the Hodgepodge on there. Some other folks are on there with you too. Tell us a little bit about your record.
Yeah, it's produced by John Osborne, and it was recorded at his studio in East Nashville.
Of course, there'll be a Brothers Osborne fan.
Right, yeah. And, I mean, it was just kind of like looking back, I'm like, oh God, because they were like the first songs I've ever written. So like, obviously there's been a lot of growth, but like, it's cool that I'm able to look back on it now and be like, well, one, oh my God, like, can't believe I wrote like that. And two, like, I'm so proud of myself for doing that because like, it was new. I wasn't really a songwriter. I'm still learning.
Right.
And now I'm like putting these songs out into the world for everyone to hear and comment on. So
and it seems to be working. I mean, nobody ever says, "Oh, that Grace Bowers, she's just okay. She's horrible to deal with." I had Dave Stewart was in here with me a couple weeks ago from the Eurythmics, and you came up and he was like, "Oh yeah, Dev, she's great." And
yeah,
we were
I was just riding with him.
Yeah, well,
a few days ago.
There you go. Oh, that's good company to be in.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right on. That's so cool. We got Grace Bowers here. We're talking about her record. We're going to talk about some Dwayne Eddy stuff here too, but there is so much, and I'm gonna run through this real quick. You're doing shows with Gary Clark Jr., right? You're also doing shows with Tedeschi Trucks,
Yeah.
right? Bunch of festivals this year. Are you going to Fuji Rocks? Did I see that?
We are, yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's so cool. And then let's see. I saw a video. You posted it. You're on stage. You're doing your thing. And I'm pretty sure, like, right here is Trey from Fish. And then back in the back, I'm pretty sure that's Michael McDonald. And then in between the two, just rocking out to your stuff is Cher. I mean, what is this life that you're living right now, Grace Bowers? What is this?
It's crazy.
Yeah. Are you aware when that's happening? Like, when you're doing your thing, are you aware that, oh my God, that is Cher over there?
Yes. Yes. Well, I'm both aware and not, because like when I'm playing, I'm not really thinking about who's standing next to me,
Right.
But
if you were ever gonna think about who's standing next to you,
right. Also, that's like the most random lineup of people ever.
It's definitely
it's amazing, but it's so random.
And what was that event? What was that for?
That was Love Rocks in New York. So it benefits God's Love New York, which is a charity that like gives out free food to people in need of it. It's really cool.
That's so cool.
Yeah, it was a cool event.
That's a lot of really amazing people for an amazing cause too.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Doesn't get any better than that, does it? Grace Bowers here with us on Lightning 100, and then I saw a picture, and even if I hadn't read underneath, I could look at your face. You got a hug from Taylor Swift, did you not? And there's a picture of it. It's on your Instagram right now. That's where I saw it. Now, and in the caption, did you explain? Was she the first show you saw? Or?
She was. Yeah, that was the first concert I ever went to when I was like 9 years old. My mom took me with a bunch of her friends.
Oh man.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
Yeah, full circle.
Full circle. Yeah, and I love to, and you can see, cause, and a lot of people following you are like some really good local musicians and people we know at the radio station. And when that picture was up, like the first few comments are just like all people we know from the radio station just freaking out for their buddy Grace. That is so cool, man. That's amazing. So let's do this, because then we got to talk about this Titan of Twang event coming up too. But you're here and the record is out, and I really would like to do something from Wine on Venus. And you said here we're going to do Madam President. Now, what do we need to know before we hear this song?
This song was written in like February of last year, so obviously before the whole election stuff came up, and it was kind of turned into another thing, like lyrically. But at its core, it's a song about like just coming together and all the different ways people can struggle, and kind of just wanting a change.
Well, all right. There's one from Grace Bowers right now. It's Madam President, and it's on Lightning 100. Lightning 100, Nashville's independent radio and music there from Grace Bowers and the Hodgepodge. That's one from the Wine on Venus album. It's Madam President. Grace Bowers is right here, too. Hello, Grace Bowers.
Hello.
How are you?
Good.
All right. So, Titan of Twang, a celebration of Dwayne Eddy. That's you Sunday at the Opry House, as we have, as apparently everybody else here knew, and I think I knew, and I just was saying it the wrong way. But it's all good. We know it's at the Opry House coming up on Sunday. Celebration of Dwayne Eddy, and this lineup: Peter Frampton, Vince Gill, Albert Lee, Joe Bonamassa, Steve Earle, Beth Nielsen Chapman, Buddy Miller, which is kind of, if you're at an event with a whole lot of people there and you see Buddy Miller as a part of it, that's kind of like the stamp of excellence, Molly Tuttle and J.D. McPherson. Slim Jim Phantom is going to be there. Del McCurry Band, Grace Bowers, and more to be announced, it says here. This is that's some folks, man.
It's quite the lineup.
Of course, that's the kind of lineup. They're paying tribute to Dwayne Eddy, and Dwayne Eddy is a guy, and I didn't realize it was here in just a few weeks. It'll be a year since he passed away, and he had lived out in Franklin. Lived here for ages, I think. Now you're twang friendly, are you not? You know a little twang, right?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah. You were telling me you open, is it Ghost Riders in the?
Yeah, we open almost every show with Ghost Riders by the Ventures, and of course, like we don't play it twangy like they did.
Right.
I definitely have gone through and listened to a lot of stuff and pulled from it just because some of those riffs are so iconic.
He did a song, and spoiler, we're gonna wrap up in a minute. When we do, we're gonna play this song. He did a song in '58 called Rebel Rouser. And the only reason I know it is my dad graduated high school in 1958 and thought that Dwayne Eddy was just the coolest thing that had ever been, right? And so all through when I was coming up, even in the 90s and whatever, there'd just be old Dwayne Eddy records playing around my house because my dad, he loved Dwayne Eddy. And I remember, this is, when I think of Dwayne Eddy, the first thing I think about is years ago, I worked here at this radio station in the 90s when we were back in we were downtown. And I forget what it was for. He'd come up to, it wasn't an interview, but he'd come up to sign something or do something for a charity we were working with, whatever. And as I was coming to work one day, Dwayne Eddy was leaving. And so I just stopped and introduced myself because I knew who that was. And I always try really hard. I don't like to germ people if they're not here to do stuff with me. I don't want to be like, oh, I love you so much. But it was Dwayne Eddy. And so I shook his hand, and I noticed when I shook his hand, my hand just kind of disappeared. I felt like I was kind of shaking hands with a grizzly bear, and then I told my dad, I called my dad and told him, hey, I just met Dwayne Eddy. And it was the first time that anybody in my family or whatever thought, okay, this radio thing might actually be kind of a cool thing for him to be doing because he just met Dwayne Eddy. How cool is that? So that's what I always think about when I think Dwayne Eddy,
That's awesome.
So much good music and so many good musicians coming up on Sunday. Do you think this feels like one of those things where we'll wind up with a whole bunch of people on stage playing a whole bunch of guitar at once?
Oh, I'm sure.
Is it possible to do a tribute to a guitar player and not have the big all-star jam at the end? I feel like that's the point, right?
I'm pretty sure we're gonna have a jam at the end.
Right on. Well, and it's Sunday, and it's gonna be at the Opry House. I said Ryman earlier. It is not at the Ryman. Let me make this very, very clear. It is not at the Ryman. It is at the Opry House. But it's an amazing evening of music celebrating Dwayne Eddy, the Titan of Twang, at Titan of Twang, a celebration of Dwayne Eddy. And again, Peter Frampton, Vince Gill, Albert Lee, Joe Bonamassa, Steve Earle. I've heard of all these people, Buddy Miller, Molly Tuttle, J.D. McPherson, Grace Bowers. And thank you again for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
And if we want to keep up with, because I know you're going to be, I looked at your tour dates, and you're kind of busy this year.
Yeah, we're all over the place.
If people want to do whatever they can to try to keep up with you and music and merch and all that jazz, Grace, where can we find you?
You can go to my website, gracebowers.com. And then on my social media, just look up Grace Bowers. It should come up.
It's almost too easy, right? Yeah. Thank you very much. And I guess let's get out of here now. Let's do something from the man himself. We talked about this song just a second ago. Originally released in 1958. Funny thing, in 2025, it's still really, really cool. And it's Dwayne Eddy doing Rebel Rouser on Lightning 100.